Right guys, thought I would just do a quick video on one of my most used power tools. This is the Dewalt DCS 355 oscillating multi-tool. Obviously I do a lot of renovations and home improvement type work, so a lot of different trades I cover, and this tool just comes in so handy in so many different situations. So I thought I would just do a quick video showing you a lot of the different situations that I would use this machine for. Right, so firstly you get a huge array of blades for these tools. These are the ones I use, and you can go bananas with these blades and get 20 different types, but I tailor the blades for my specific situations or specific needs. Right, there's the tool, there's the blades. Now we'll go on to the 20 most common situations where I would use the blades. Starting with number 1. Okay, so here's a common use that I would use this for. It would be your standard, just a single gang electrical back box. Yeah, it's fit the back box now, it's ready obviously to fit whatever electrical plate you want. Another thing I would use this for is when you're fishing cables down a wall, whether it's behind a TV or just generally fishing electrical cables or aerial points down behind plasterboard walls. Just use your electrical fish rods, to fish cables through the walls, and use these little holes as access points. Obviously you get such a neat cut with the multi-tool that once you're finished, you can just place that, your off cut back in and just simply fill it over, no problem at all. Another thing you can do on this theme is, say for instance you're putting in, I don't know, HDMI cables or something like that in behind for a TV, and you need to make this opening bigger in the back of the back box, the dry lining box, sorry. You can quite easily just use this blade and cut the plastic, Yeah, something like that. Obviously it would file all the rough edges and that off, but just shows you how you can cut into plastic real easily, just to open this up slightly. Another quick use, if you're, for instance, laying plywood on the floor before putting laminate flooring down or whatever, just to level off the floor, and you need to cut out a section, to get around a pipe or whatever it may be, just, notching plywood. Again, this tool's ideal for that, just. As quick as that, you can see how quickly it does it. You can be really precise if you take your time with these as well. So another use, so it's from plywood. Another use I've found this tool extremely useful for is when you're doing laminate flooring or vinyl flooring and you need to get the skirting boards off, to create a neat finish, to slip under the skirting boards. I'm trying to replicate a radiator pipe here, so this could be a pipe to a radiator. A lot of the times the pipes are hard against the skirting board, so you can't get them prized off, to get the flooring, so to get them out and then up to get the nails out. So typically sometimes you would find a fixing in there, for instance, with a nail. So what I would use this tool for is get the blade on, put it at an angle like that, slip it down in behind the skirting board, and and just back and forward and cut the nail. Once that's cut, you could then lift the skirting board up without having to take it out. Yeah, so that way you don't need to mess about with any of the plumbing, the heating system. Try to get the skirting board out. But while I've got this set up as well, another thing you can do here with skirting boards, we'll just replicate. We'll say this pipe's the side of a unit or something, a kitchen unit or a vanity unit going in against the skirting board. Now, without having to take the skirting board off, what you can do is mark a line down the skirting board, and then just cut it in situation. you know, in situ. So you just cut that straight up there, remove that piece and put your unit in without having to take the skirting board off. Again, so it's effectively a plunge saw. You're plunging in and cutting without the need to remove trim or anything like that, so brilliant. Okay, so we've got a metal cutting blade on now. When you use one of these, obviously you can cut metal with it. So one of the ways you can use it is to cut copper pipe. So obviously it's not ideal, but it's just showing that you can do that. So if you had a pipe under a floor or something with difficult, you know, you're ripping it out, difficult to access, just plunge this in and cut it. Okay, so on the plumbing theme, another situation where I would use this a lot, well not a lot, but when you need it, if you know what I mean. When you're trying to get a cistern off a close coupled toilet, we've all been there, these bolts are rusted solid underneath, you just cannot get them off to get the cistern away from the actual toilet pan. So this tool comes in really handy. Sometimes you can just slip it in between the pan and the cistern, and you know, just cut the bolt using this. You know, years ago I used to, if I had to do this, I would use a grinder and try and cut the wing nut off, but it's not ideal. Okay, another one still with plumbing is obviously plastic waste pipe. It can be cut really easily with the multi tool. You know, to show you, demonstrate quickly. You can see how quick that cuts. You know, it just cuts. Obviously, if you take your time, you can do it really neatly and then deburr the pipe. So there you go. Another obvious use for this with a metal blade is cutting nails out. Obviously, it's a loose nail. You wouldn't do it in this scenario, but you know, if you can imagine something nailed to here and just couldn't get a grip of the nail, you could slip the tool down the back of the material, whatever it was, and cut the nail, you know, and able to get it off. So just quickly. As quick as that, just flush cuts the nail straight off. There's one time when I used that similar scenario to that, is when fence panels are secured to fence posts. Somebody's nailed them on instead of using brackets. You can just slip the multi tool in between the panel and the post and cut the nails, and then just take the panel out. It's just so much easier. Another one quickly is acrylic wall panels. So these are the panels that you fit in kitchens or bathrooms, just thin acrylic sheets, you know, to act as a splashback. A lot of the times when you're fitting these, you need to notch them round, you know, socket outlets, things like that. This is where this tool's brilliant for that. Just like this. Acrylic's notoriously difficult to cut because it chips quite a lot and splinters. But you find with the multi tool, you can cut that fairly well, and it doesn't chip or splinter. So for cutting around sockets or even plunge cutting into the acrylic, you know, if you want to square in there, the multi tool is absolutely ideal for that. Okay, another situation, you can put on the carbide. This is the blade I normally use for taking grout out between tiles, but you can actually use this for cutting tiles or shaping tiles, you know, just as I'm demonstrating here. So you could be putting this up against you know, where a socket outlet is, and you need to notch out a little bit for the electrical screw to go through. To save you going away down to your cutting equipment, your tile saw or whatever, you could simply use the multi tool. Take your time and just nick that out. But aside from nicking, you know, little small areas out of tiles, the main purpose of this blade is for raking grout out. So if you can imagine, I've just set, sorry, it's some old tiles, but if you can imagine grout in here that's all discoloured, black, mouldy or whatever, and you need to dig it out to re-grout, this is where this tool's invaluable. You know, you just run along the grout lines, take it out, and then re-grout the tiles. Now the flooring can be slipped under there once the skirting board's on here. Right, another one guys, bear with me with the materials and the demonstration. I'm a bit ill prepared here, but what I'm trying to replicate here is floorboards, so tongue and groove floorboards. In order to maybe get a section of flooring up, it's usually really difficult if there's a tongue and groove in there. So what you can do, what you always do really, is the multi tool, slip it down into the joint and run along that joint and just cut the tongue off of the flooring. A couple of runs along there, and then you'll find you can get a pry bar or something in there and then actually pry the flooring up. So it's another use. That's probably one of the most common uses for the multi tool. Another common use in the same theme, whether it's floorboards or chipboard flooring, is to cut out hatches, you know, if you need to get under the floor, especially electricians or plumbers. The multi tool's excellent for that, you know, just plunge cut again, and you can cut the area out quite easily. Okay, there's another use that's really common for me anyway, those terrible thin bath panels, you know, the cheap plastic bath panels. They never fit those things, so this particular blade here is great for cutting those. So you just run it up the, you know, really thin plastic, really thin and flimsy, but these blades are so accurate if you just take your time. You can just cut some intricate shapes. So this is the bath panel blade in my opinion for me. Just a great blade. While I'm discussing this, the reason I use the Dewalt multi tool, other than being on the Dewalt platform obviously, is the quick release option. So with the Dewalt, all you do is press the lever in and then the blade just simply pulls out like that. So depress the blade, you can see me depress it, and you can spin the blade in any direction. Let go of the blade and it just simply locks into place. Yeah, as I was saying, these are the Dewalt blades that just slip on, but the standard, or a lot of the other multi tools, I've got another one here, I've got just a cheap old Ryobi one that I used to use for tiling. But you can see how you need an Allen key, you know, to change the blades. Here's a typical blade here, but you would need to actually, you know, undo this nut, put the blade on, do it up. It's so time consuming and, you know, just a bit awkward. You know, when you're used to just using the lever system, press the lever, get the blade, slip it on, that's it, it's done, you know, so it's a time saver. So this Dewalt is, if you're thinking about getting a multi-tool, I would highly recommend the Dewalt if you're going to do any amount of DIY. The harder you depress it, the faster the tool goes, so there is great control over that. So that, coupled with the quick release system, makes this the multi-tool of choice, in my opinion. Right guys, there's one other thing that I use the multi-tool for fairly often, is when I'm refinishing kitchen worktops. I will use the sanding attachment, this small attachment. Obviously I'll use an orbital sander to sand the worktops, but obviously in the corners or, you know, in some intricate places you need to use the small, you know, the detail sander. So the sanding pads just stick on here with Velcro, and you can use these to get into all the nooks and crannies. So that's another thing I would use the multi-tool for, and it is good for that. The Dewalt's far superior to this, but again, I'm not a snob when it comes to tools. The Ryobi's perfectly adequate, you know, if that's what your budget calls for. It's a good enough tool. It's never really caused me any problems. But hopefully I've covered a few things you can do with the multi-tool. I've tried to cover what I use it for, but there's probably another 100 different things you could use it for that other people use it for. But please guys, if there's any other interesting ways you use the multi-tool, please stick it in the comments, just to let some other people know what you can use them for. That'd be fantastic. If you enjoyed the video, as always, give it a thumbs up guys if you can. Anybody new here, please subscribe my channel by clicking the button there. Current subscribers, as always, thanks very much. Sorry for the variety and content on this channel at the moment. I'm still trying to figure out, you know, what the channel's all about really. I'm just so new to YouTube, but we'll try and niche down into certain topics, so, you know, it interests most people. But again guys, thanks very much and take it easy as always. bye.